Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing today?
I am exhausted.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I worked this weekend, and it was a lot of physical labor, and so I mean, mostly my job involves sitting at a desk, so so having a whole weekend of physical labor was very exhausting. But it's over, and I get to go back to work tomorrow.
Gotcha.
but I mean, overall not bad.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. I don't know if maybe long-term listeners will remember about 2 years ago, there was a day when it was really, really windy. And I mentioned how we had like a little portable outdoor gazebo thing that got blown over and destroyed.
Oh, no.
And it happened again.
Yeah.
It didn't get destroyed though.
Okay.
But I was at work a couple days ago. My wife sent me a text, and it was a photo of the gazebo upside down in our backyard.
Oh, jeez. And you were able to get it back over?
We were able to get it back over. We Steve came over. We got some of the neighbors to come over, and we stood it back up, and we took the top off, like the tarp. And here's the worst part about the whole thing. I had literally just put the top back on like 2 days before. If I hadn't done that, if I had waited a week, we would not have had that problem.
Sure.
And
you couldn't have known it was going to be that windy.
I guess. So we took the top off. We're going to secure it down really good. We're thinking of like digging a little hole under each of the legs, putting a cinder block down there, and then securing them to the cinder block some way. We haven't figured out exactly how. One idea was the neighbor said they had a bunch of like really, really heavy duty zip ties. So if each leg is zip tied, like we could have it like 4 different zip ties per leg.
Yeah.
That would probably be enough to hold it down.
Yeah. Yeah. That could
if not that, maybe like pour some cement or something. I don't know anything about that, and I don't know.
Yeah. You could potentially put like bolt it to the cinder block in some way, but I don't know.
Maybe I don't know the best way to do that.
Maybe like if it was heavy duty enough zip tie, I think that should probably work.
Yeah, especially if it's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah,
but I was afraid the thing was going to be broken. We'd have to buy a new one, which we'll do if we have to. But whether we have to replace it or not, before we do anything, we needed a way to secure it down, because both times this happened, that could have flown towards our house and shattered all the windows in our back porch.
Right.
It could have
flown up into the power cords or something.
Sure, could have like gone into the neighbor's yard. Could have hit a person or an animal and killed them.
Yeah, or knocked out a fence or something like that.
Definitely. So we've been very lucky that nothing like that happened either time. So whatever we do, we need to make sure that it is safe, because that could have been real bad. But it doesn't seem that there's a little bit of damage to it. The tarp on top is probably done, but it was already all torn anyway. Like I don't think it was very good quality. So being in the sun for 2 years, kind of like just taking it off for the winter and putting it back on, like it had several little tears. So.
Right. Yeah. You really can only do that so many times with those things. You're just gonna end up with so many rips and tears in it.
Yeah. Other than that, not really too much has been going on. Just working, just trying to keep the fires burning, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
So you want to go ahead and get into this episode, Jeff?
Sure.
Okay. I want you to imagine that you have a friend named James C.
Okay.
Let's say. He says that he is going on an expedition to go and recover, or at least photo, or get photos of or videotape an underwater boat that has crashed, and he wants you to go with him.
Okay.
And you go and you get together with him. You haven't seen him in a long time. You actually kind of forgot what he looked like. I'll get to his appearance in just a moment, but you get together. He's got this this big machine that you guys are going to climb into, and you're going to go down underwater in it.
Okay.
And you get in there, and it's a real tight fit.
Okay. Huh.
Partly because your friend James is about 30 feet tall. He has a long tail that every time like you turn around, it slaps you in the face. And
dang it!
He apologizes, but you have the feeling it's on purpose. It's because you didn't pay him back that $20 that you owe him.
Oh yeah.
And anyway, but you guys you go down in this submersible thing. You go down there. You're underwater. James turns on the brights, and you see that you have not found a crashed boat.
Oh.
You have found a giant underwater pile of gold and silver and rubies and all sorts of cool stuff. And you realize that this is all a front. He wanted to show off something to you. And do you know what he wanted to show off to you?
What was that, Gabe?
James Cameron wanted to show off his dragon's hoard. So, fun fact about the movie Titanic.
Right.
The movie Titanic came about because James Cameron wanted to take an expedition down to see the Titanic, and he needed a way to raise money to do it. So he was like, well, I'll just make a movie out of it.
Right. Yeah, I had heard that.
So that's what he did.
Is it James Cameron who did Avatar?
Yes.
It was basically like, I need an excuse to do I want to try out this new tech.
Oh, probably.
Or like he wanted to develop like the face capture stuff or something like that. So he was like, well, I'll just make a movie that has to be in space or something.
Sounds like him.
Or whatever.
Him and Adam Sandler, all of his movies for the last 20 years have been, I want to take all my friends to Hawaii. Right. Let's make a movie that takes place in Hawaii.
Yeah, with all my friends, of
course.
With
all my friends, exactly. All right, so today's item was submitted by Shadowhand Silverbones via email. And this item is actually an item from the Dungeon Master's Guide. Mm-hmm. I figured we'd take a little bit of a change from the items that we've still got plenty of items submitted by listeners, like homebrew items. But I wanted to talk about this one, and this item is the Apparatus of Qualish, or depending on whether you're using an official, like the Dungeon Master's Guide or not, it is also known as the Apparatus of the Crab.
Oh.
So like in the system reference document,
sure,
it is the Apparatus of the Crab because Qualish is a trademarked name.
Gotcha. So, yeah. And it like the device itself is very crab-like.
It is. So the Apparatus of the Crab, which is how it is listed on Roll20, so like roll20.net, it's listed on there. It first appears to be a large sealed iron barrel weighing 500 pounds. The barrel has a hidden catch which can be found with a successful DC 20 intelligence investigation check. Revealing the catch unlocks a hatch at one end of the barrel, allowing 2 medium or smaller creatures to crawl inside. So you guys were really crammed in there.
Yeah.
Because I didn't say what size category James Cameron is, but I imagine at least large. 10 levers are set in a row on the far end, each in a neutral position, able to move either up or down. When certain levers are used, the apparatus transforms to resemble a giant lobster, which is very bizarre because it is not called the apparatus of the lobster.
It's called the apparatus of the crab.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know which one to believe, the name or the description.
Right.
I don't know. The apparatus of the crab is a large object with the following statistics. Has armor class 20, 200 hit points, a speed of 30 feet, and a swim speed of 30 feet, or 0 feet for both if the legs and tail are not extended. And it is immune to poison and psychic damage because it is an object.
Right.
To be used as a vehicle, the apparatus requires one pilot. While the apparatus's hatch is closed, the compartment is airtight and watertight. The compartment holds enough air for 10 hours of breathing, divided by the number of breathing creatures inside. The apparatus floats on water. It can also go underwater to a depth of 900 feet. Below that, the vehicle takes 2d6 bludgeoning damage per minute from pressure. A creature in the compartment can use an action to move as many as 2 of the apparatus's levers up or down. After each use, a lever goes back to its neutral position. Each lever from left to right functions as shown in the Apparatus of the Crab levers table.
Oh.
So I'm not going to, there's a big table here. I'm not going to read like everything, but I will say just briefly what each one does. The first lever makes the legs and tail extend and allows it to walk and swim. Number 2, the forward window shutter opens, so it lets you see out the front, basically.
Gotcha.
I imagine there is glass there. Otherwise, you open it up and water
rushes in.
Number 3, the side window shutters open. There's 2 shutters per side. Number 4, 2 claws extend from the front sides of the apparatus. So it's got 2 claws. Number 5 makes each extended claw attack. So you can make 2 attacks with it. They've, got an attack bonus and they deal bludgeoning damage and so on. Number 6, the apparatus walks or swims forward. Number 7, the apparatus turns 90 degrees left. Number 8, eye-like fixtures emit bright light in a 30-foot radius and dim light for an additional 30 feet. So when you're underwater, they provide little headlights.
Right.
Number 9, the apparatus sinks as much as 20 feet in liquid. And number 10, the rear hatch unseals and opens. So basically, you can, I think each person can move 2 levers per round. And then a lever makes you move forward, a lever makes you turn, a lever makes you attack. That sort of stuff. So basically, it's a little tiny submarine.
Yeah.
That you could use to attack if you wanted to. You could use it to explore. You could move around on land with it.
Yeah, it's very interesting how how very specific all the mechanics of it are.
Yeah, it can only turn 90 degrees.
Sure, right. It's so you can't attack things that aren't in front of it.
I guess, yeah.
That's very silly. It's not just like, okay, you have this thing and you're just a large creature with these statistics.
Yeah, that would probably be an easier way to do it.
Right.
But I don't know. I kind of like how janky it is.
Right, yeah. There is sort of a thing to it. But it's so much easier if I just had a swim speed and an underwater breathing of some kind. Those aren't that hard to get.
Right. Also, this item's been around for a long time. I don't know if it was in first or second edition. I know it was in third edition.
Yeah, third for sure.
It felt like an established item by that point.
Yeah. That's I think that's a big part of it. Is it is very iconic.
Yeah. So it's just a goofy little crab-shaped submarine,
lobster-shaped crab thing.
Exactly. It's a lobster-shaped crab. So yeah, I do know that Shadowhand Silverbones likes this item.
Yeah,
he has mentioned it in the past. When we were doing the Age of Worms campaign, I decided that Quellish was a character. I mean, I'm sure that they're in one of the game developers' games way back 30 years ago. There probably was a character named Quellish, but it was kind of as a goof. There was an early adventure where Shadowhand Silverbones' character was a gnome, and he had the ability to speak with a burrowing creature, and I don't remember the exact circumstances, but basically, it turned out that there was someone in his bag of holding. He didn't realize it at the time, but I decided that there was someone who was living in his bag of holding.
Yeah.
And I eventually had that pay off 10 levels later.
Right.
And there was, I think at one point as a clue to this, he was looking through his bag and he found a book in his bag that he didn't put there. A book just found its way into it. It was already in his bag, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was just making up a name, and I called the book The Tabletop Scribblings of Quellish. And, just pulling one of the many D&D names in my head, just pulled it out of there. And then I was like, let me actually think about that. And then so I decided that Quellish was a person who invented the apparatus of Quellish, and then at some point went into hiding or something, and he hid himself away inside this bag of holding that could fold out into an extra dimensional house, basically.
Right, yeah. Because I think the whole burrowing thing was because Quellish was a gnome.
Oh, right.
Quellish was a gnome, and Shadowhand Silverbones was I forget where we were fighting exactly.
Yeah,
it was something very large.
Oh,
but he basically attacked his way through a monster.
Yeah,
and we were like, oh my god, does he count as burrowing? Is he a small burrowing creature? It's would a gnome be able to communicate with him?
And I was like, yes, actually, a gnome does communicate.
In fact, you hear somebody say, "Oh, hi there." You're like, that was basically, it was like, hello.
Yeah, weird circumstances, but it all comes back to the apparatus of Quellish. I think this is a fun item.
Yeah,
it looks real goofy.
Yeah,
there's a picture of it in the 3rd edition DMG. I don't remember if there's a picture of it in the 5th edition DMG, but if so, I will try to find a picture of it. I don't know. It's just a fun item. I've never actually seen one in an actual game. But
right, yeah. I don't think I've ever seen one used.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a cool item. Put it in your game and see what your players do with it.
Yeah, like put it like real early on and just, like just have like a fun underwater adventure.
Yeah. All right, well, I think that'll do it for our for the Dragon's Hoard for today. So once again, that was submitted by Shadowhand Silverbones via email. So thank you, Shadowhand Silverbones. Jeff, if anybody wanted to submit magic items for us to discuss, or if they had questions for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com.
Yes, that is correct. And before we go any further, we have a giveaway to give away today. As always, we're giving away a copy of Chapel on the Cliffs, courtesy of Goblinstone. Chapel on the Cliffs is a great adventure. It is a low-level 5th edition adventure for, I think, 2nd through 6th level characters. And there might be a reference to this adventure later on in the episode.
Oh, okay.
Spoilers. So, Jeff, who is our winner of this wonderful adventure today?
Our winner today is Jonathan S.
Whoa, winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes, congratulations, Jonathan S. You should be getting that in your email in the next few days. If you don't get it in about a week, let us know. And be sure to leave Goblinstone a review. They're a great adventure developer, and they would love to get your feedback and continue to make great products. And we also want to thank all of our patrons for making this show happen, really. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. And if you go there, you can pledge to donate a certain amount of money per month to help keep the lights on and such, cover hosting fees and equipment and all that kind of stuff. So, check that out. Thank you so much to everybody who is a patron. We've got some cool stuff. I write fantasy fiction every month. I've got outtakes on there. We do a monthly bonus podcast called InterPatronConflict.
Right.
That we come out with once a month. We've also got a monthly Roll20 game. So last week we did another game of the Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 RPG.
Yeah.
That I think went very, very well.
Yeah, we had a good time.
It was a lot of fun. So we've also, if you're the top tier, I will write about your character for my fantasy fiction.
Nice.
So yeah, we've got some cool rewards on there. So go over and check out patreon.com/interpartyconflict. See if anything appeals to you. If you can spare $1 a month, that would help make the show better, and you'll get some cool bonus content for it. Also, I want to say a huge shout out and a big thank you to Jason, who is a new patron.
Oh, awesome.
So, Jason, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
We really, really appreciate your contribution, and I hope you get some cool... I hope you get some enjoyment out of the rewards that are already on there and that continue to come out. And if you have any ideas for how we can make it better, let us know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Jason. Thank you all the rest of our patrons. And patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. And then one last thing, check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Crit Academy, Justin, Ian, and Brandon create new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. They recently had an episode about a sorcerer archetype that they made.
Oh,
they
cool.
made a supplement on DM's Guild. They also, they've made a few supplements on DM's Guild recently. But they in particular, they had an episode about a sorcerer origin, the Gun Mage.
Okay.
Which is a sorcerer that they have a unique focus that is a gun. Basically.
Gotcha,
but they get special stuff that they can basically use the propulsion of their gun to let them use the dash action as a bonus action. Like they fire as they run away.
Neat.
They can channel spells through it. I don't know. They've got some really cool stuff on there. They just talked about it on their most recent episode as of this recording. So check out that episode. They also, Justin wrote a barbarian archetype called the Path of the Brawler, I think. But so that product's out there too. I believe both of them are pay what you want on DM's Guild. I could be wrong, but I think at least the Path of the Brawler you can get for free. But if you like it, you can always donate some money to them.
Right.
They also, as I mentioned previously, they also wrote a book all about their unearthed tips and tricks from their show, which I helped write. So check that out as well. You can find links to all those on critacademy.com. Also, D&D Character Lab, Garen and Dan make characters every week and then pit them against each other and debate whose is better. And also, Brute Force and Ignorance is an actual play on the network as well. So check out all those podcasts. They're great. Got some great stuff for you, for everybody who is a fan of the medium. So check them out. You want to go ahead and get into some questions, Jeff?
Sure.
Awesome.
Our first question comes from Ethan on email. And they ask, what should I do if a player wants to multiclass Paladin and Warlock? Would their god be okay with the character having a patron and vice versa?
Yeah.
I mean, right off the bat, like the Paladin Warlock combo is really good.
It is mechanically, yes. It is a very common. It's a very well known combo.
Yeah.
Because there's a really neat combination of abilities between you can use spell slots to power your smites as a paladin, and warlock spell slots come back after short rests. So you can it's a little bit. You're gaming the system a little bit, that's not necessarily a bad thing,
right? There's the synergy because they both spell castings go off of charisma, I believe, or is it wisdom with paladin? I mean, there is some charisma needed with paladin.
Yeah. So, for sure. So there's definitely a lot of synergy, and a lot of people like this combo for that reason.
Yeah.
And so the issue that Ethan is having is that one of their players wants to do this, and I guess they were a paladin first, and they want to multiclass into warlock.
Sure. And
so Ethan was asking, what should I do? Should I let this happen? How should it work out in the story? I guess let me just briefly describe for anybody maybe who isn't familiar with paladins or warlocks.
Sure.
Traditionally, in previous editions, paladins were strictly lawful good, followers of a deity or just like the powers of good. They smite evil. They get cleric spells. They summon a steed. They wear heavy armor, blah, 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 so on.
Yeah.
They've changed quite a bit since 3rd edition. 4th edition had no alignment restrictions, and really not even, because it was so much more focused on combat. I don't even think there was restrictions on like you had to follow a certain faith or code or anything.
Yeah.
In 5th edition, they changed up the paladin a bit. It is no longer restricted to alignment. It is, some of the oaths maybe make more sense with a given alignment, but
right, yeah.
You don't have to be a certain alignment. You choose a code or an oath,
yeah,
and you have to stick to the tenets of that oath in whatever form that following those tenets is going to take.
Yeah.
So you don't even technically have to have a deity. So I think for the sake of this argument, I think we should probably maybe think of a cleric and a warlock rather than a paladin and a warlock. But paladin, I think, has its own nuance in that case too. But
yeah.
The paladin, they make an oath. They gain their powers from this oath. There can be evil paladins. There can be good paladins. There can be lawful paladins, chaotic paladins, neutral paladins. The whole everything. It is no longer alignment based. It is based on really your actions and your motivations. I guess. A warlock, on the other hand, is someone who they make a pact with some sort of a being that is explicitly for power.
All right.
I mean, from my understanding, the agreement between a warlock and their patron is, I will give you this power. The patron says, I will give you this power in exchange for you being devoted to me in ways that we set out.
Right.
We decide here and now.
Yeah. Sorcery is you're born with the power. Wizard is you learn the power, like you do the homework and learn the power. Warlock is you make a deal with the devil, so to speak, to get the power. You take the shortcut.
Sure.
You take the shortcut, but at a great cost.
Yeah. And that can be that you are literally making a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
Like there is a warlock patron that is the fiend, the archfiend that like gives you demonic powers. But that's not, and that's probably the most common like image people have of a warlock. But there are
or the Cthulhu one. But
sure, there's also the Great Old One, or the Great Old One, which is like you make a pact with some sort of an unknowable eldritch abomination or something like Cthulhu or Thurisdan, who is like a god that was kicked out of Godland because he was too crazy and nobody could handle him or whatever.
Right.
There is also the Archfey, and these are just in the player's handbook. There's the Archfey, which is you make a pact with some sort of a powerful fey creature. So, and then there's other ones. There's even a celestial pact where you make a pact with a celestial.
Right.
So it does not have to be that you are making an evil deal or that you are, you have to do things you don't want to do. It could be mutually beneficial for both people for any alignment.
Yeah.
So, the question then is, would a deity for a paladin or a cleric be okay with that character also having a patron?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts off the top of your head?
I mean,
I already gave Ethan a detailed explanation
Sure.
in an email, but I will go over that.
I mean, there's definitely several ways to go about this, and like none of them are wrong, and all of them could be very interesting. It's all very specific on how you want this to go about, and like how, because it sounds like that they've tied the paladin to a god already. So like he's got a god, and that's just how he wanted that character to be. That's how the player made the paladin. They had that in mind. You could make it so that the patron is still the god. You're just getting different powers from that god. The god is the patron, and like you can just flavor. Doesn't matter what pact it is, you just flavor it that way.
Yeah,
like the even the the old god one, where I think eventually you get like a thrall or something like that. Maybe it's not a thrall. Maybe you're just like convincing them of your holiness, and they are devoted to you for a short time, or something like that.
Yeah.
So you can definitely like flavor it that like the patron and the god are the same.
Yeah, very much so. I've said before, like level and class and all that, these are game mechanics. They don't have to be separate they don't have to be distinct in the story unless you want them to.
Right.
If you, the DM, do want there to be both a deity and a patron, okay, then there is. But it could also be that the character is not two classes. They are just one class, and that one class for the first couple levels gains the first couple levels of Paladin, and then the next couple levels gains the first couple levels of Warlock, and then Paladin, and so on. Yeah. It very well could be that they just have a deity, and they get varying powers from the deity.
Right. Usually when I'm coming up with concepts that involve multiclassing, that's most of the time how I'm thinking of it. Or it's like, okay, they're just like this is what I'm trying to get to, and the way I get to that is with a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but like I see myself as this end goal here.
Sure.
Versus, like I am a warrior and then I retire as a warrior to pick up spell casting or something like that. Which, could be interesting.
Could be. I always think that it causes a lot of problems that a lot of new DMs don't know how to deal with, because then there's always the like, oh, well, he was a rogue for 3 levels and now he wants to take a level of wizard, but it takes years and years and years to become a wizard. So how do I rationalize that he's going off and doing this and then coming back? You don't have to rationalize anything. It could just be that the whole time he has been focusing on both things. His spellcasting hasn't gotten to a point yet where he has been able to cast spells.
Right. He's not going to be if he's 3 levels of rogue and 1 level of wizard, he's not a 4th level wizard. He is a 1st level wizard. So like he's at the beginning of his spellcasting. Yeah. So he just kind of like, He's been reading up on it as he's been backstabbing people.
Exactly.
Like, book in one hand, a knife in the other.
Yeah. Justin from Crit Academy, he does this sort of thing a lot. For our actual play, he put together a combination of barbarian and bard, with the idea that it's not that he has 2 classes, it's that he is a voice of the ancients, is what he called it.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, he's set up for the first few levels at least. He's going to get this barbarian ability, and then this bard ability, and then this barbarian ability, and so on. And he also, during one of our other Roll20 games a while back, he made a combination of fighter and barbarian that he flavored as being the symbiote from Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
And mechanically, it was exactly as if he was just a multi-class fighter barbarian, but he had written them out as first level's this, second level's this, and so on. And he went, and I guess he posted on the 5th edition D&D message board on our Facebook group. He posted it. He was like, hey, what do you guys think of this? And everybody was like, oh, that's so broken. Why would you, how can you give him all this stuff that's way more powerful? And he was like, dude, it is exactly the same as if I multi-class these 2 classes. But because he made it look like one class, people immediately were like, well, no, you can't do that. That's too powerful.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting way to do it. Like, I didn't realize he did that. I thought he was just flavoring barbarian.
He also had some fighter in there, but that's his rage was he was bringing out the symbiote.
Yeah, I thought it was just like, he was just taking barbarian and flavoring it differently, which is like one of the things they do a lot on that show. Is like they come up with a really cool flavor text ideas for different classes and stuff. But yeah, that is sort of interesting as like you publish it, you write it out as it's a one class, but really it's just a level of this, a level of that.
Sure.
That's actually kind of a cool idea.
Yeah. And that's once I realized that, like I had a realization many years ago while playing D&D, like once I realized it is all about how it is presented.
Yeah.
So that's why I reflavor so many things in my games, because I've realized that you can look at D&D as this collection of very like set in stone rules, or you can look at it as a whole bunch of pieces of clay. And it's all about, well, I take a little bit of this piece of clay, slap it on here. Now that other piece of clay looks like something completely different.
Yeah.
And they've all been there the whole time. It's just a question of whether you're able to see them as pieces that can be taken apart and fit together and so on. Anyway.
Yeah.
Big tangent here.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, because it's all numbers and opportunities. Yeah. Like, as long as those are still balanced the same way, like, doesn't matter what everything else is, as long as,
So getting back to the question, like you were saying, Jeff, that it doesn't have to be that the patron is a separate entity.
Right.
I think that even if you want it to be a separate entity, the two entities don't have to be at odds. In the email that Ethan sent me, I believe Ethan mentioned that the player's deity was this like Forgotten Realms deity of the ocean or something. It was like this ocean deity. It was like Istitia, I think it was what it was called. And I was thinking, depending on which patron that the player wants, like the Archfiend or the Great Old One or the Archfey or whatever, it could very well be that his deity is a deity of the sea, and there are powerful creatures that live in the sea that are below the deity, and the player's making an additional deal with that one.
Right.
Now, like, let's say, for example, I work for, I don't know, a big, like, automobile manufacturer. And then I have my job that I do for that automobile manufacturer. And then one day, one of the people below the CEO comes to me and says, okay, I'm going to give you a special project that I want you to do in addition to your regular duties. Not in addition to, I don't know, overseeing some sort of car manufacturer. I also have to like start researching, airbags or something.
Right.
Then I'm given additional duties, but also additional pay. The CEO isn't going to fire that, isn't going to be pissed off at that, like, that team leader or whatever.
You're still working for the overall cause of the company. But,
exactly. And like, I imagine that in that case, the team leader or whatever would be doing that under instruction by the CEO, but the CEO doesn't necessarily have to come directly to me and be like, I want you to do this.
Right.
They could delegate it to someone below them to, to find people to do this job. So it very well could be that you are just dealing with different tiers of hierarchy, and different ones give you different benefits in return for different things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, one of the two of them is the one that you follow, when all said and done.
Right. There was something that we had come up with a while back, was the idea of a warlock who thinks he's a paladin.
There you go.
So this, in a similar way, could be that it's the patron and the deity are the same, but it's not that it's the deity, that it's just like the deity is giving them newer powers. It's that the deity was actually a patron in disguise or something like that. Like,
ooh,
the patron,
I like that.
Yeah, the patron is just sort of like slowly working their way in, into this person's, into this person's life. So like, you start off by giving them these divine powers that are, or at least they think they're divine powers, but it's like, it's a paladin abilities. And then eventually you start getting warlock abilities, and you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. But, well, he says he's a deity, and he looks like my deity, so I'm going to just keep going along with that. And then later on, there's like a big reveal, like, oh, you've been getting your powers from the devil. Oopsies. Like,
right.
That could be a neat way to do it.
Yeah.
Or it really could just be that they are two different things, and they're sort of at odds, but like they're kind of like fighting over you.
Yeah.
You are this person that has like this great role to play in the campaign or whatever, thing is going on. But like they're trying to like win you over. You get like the angel and devil on your shoulders sort of situation.
There you go. So maybe it's a literal angel and devil on your literal shoulders.
Yeah, exactly. So like, you're sort of getting torn at like, torn one way or the other. It's like, well, I'm getting these powers from this guy, this evil guy. Like the devil's giving me powers, but I'm using it for good. Oh, well, is my God going to be mad about that? Well, I'm still doing good,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that sort of thing, it can be a little hard to rationalize if they are so diametrically opposed.
Sure.
Like, you have your deity is like the lawful good deity of whatever, and there's like an archdemon that is giving you power. You know, you can still make it work as long as you don't think too hard about it. But if it's something that's less in direct opposition, then yeah, there's tons of potential. You mentioned earlier there's like role play potential for every one of these options. And I love the Warlock for that reason alone, because there are so many cool role play opportunities for what you can do with this patron. One thing that is different about a Warlock's patron and a deity that grants you spells, like for a cleric or such, is that with a Warlock, the agreement does not have to be something that both of you are happy about.
Right.
It could be that maybe you made that agreement when you got drunk one day and you signed a deal with the devil, and now you have all this power and you are actively working against your patron.
Right.
Once a Warlock is given powers from their patron, they have those powers.
Right.
They probably can't get more powers additional powers unless the patron, they're on good terms with their patron. But like in theory, you could make a Warlock that is actively working against your patron and
still has access
to the powers you already have.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to gain more levels, most likely, but the ones you already have, you have.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe the patron is going to send some people to go and kill you or take those powers back or something.
Yeah.
Great role play opportunity. I'll just put that out there. But it is not explicitly that you have a constant give and take from the patron.
Right. Like the way that you get your powers doesn't have to be like, I signed a piece of paper or something like that. It could be like a Freaky Friday situation where you actually like,
sure,
I accidentally bumped into the devil and got some of his powers.
And now he has some of your crippling anxiety.
Right. Right.
I really like that, actually. That's not the crippling anxiety part, but that's actually a really cool idea.
Yeah. It's just like very, very weird circumstances. You accidentally absorb some of the patron's power, and then like maybe the connection that you have with your patron is the patron trying to get those powers back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the robot devil's hands.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good from Futurama. I just had an idea. Harry Potter's a Warlock. Like,
right, yeah,
he has some of Voldemort's powers.
Yeah.
Because Voldemort accidentally gave him some of his powers.
Right. And that is definitely one of the things in that series is that like is he special because he's special? Like, is he special because he's Harry Potter, or is he special because he's got Voldemort in him? That's part of what Voldemort is like. No, you're just a kid and you just got lucky and have some of my powers because I'm awesome. That's pretty cool.
So yeah, like with a patron, it often is that you made an explicit deal with this being, but it doesn't have to be. There's lots of different, especially if having the character make an explicit deal with a demon or whatever goes against what you want for the campaign, then try to come up with a better way to have it fit into the campaign, a way that is less standard. You know? So, and like you were saying, Jeff, it very much could be that your patron and your deity do not like each other. They are at odds, and that could be a big turning point for the campaign. Maybe there's a point where the character has to make a choice of which one they're going to go with, and then whichever one they choose not to go with, they lose all of those powers. Maybe they convert them immediately they convert all their paladin levels to warlock levels, or vice versa.
Right.
Or
they just can't take more. They
just can't take more.
Well, maybe it's less that they can't take more. It's that just like they're only in it for 2 levels of warlock so that they can get the invocations or whatever like that. Because when you're building a multi-class character, sometimes like a 2-level dip into warlock is usually beneficial to whatever build, because it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, they might just be like, I just want a couple levels of it, so I'm going to have this 2-level affair with a patron.
Oh, okay.
And then you go back to your god and be like, sorry about that, god, but hey, look what I can do.
Sure. You could even, depending on what deity you have, because there's lots of different deities, all with lots of different temperaments. Some deities, I think it would make perfect sense for them to say to their followers, hey, go and make a deal with that guy over there, get some of his power, and then say screw you.
Yeah. We can use it against him, or it's like go get these powers so you can use them for what I want you to do.
I am all for players or patrons breaking deals with warlocks, like warlocks breaking deals with patrons and patrons breaking deals with warlocks. I think that the fact that it is an explicit deal has so much roleplay potential, and you're missing out if you don't exploit that at some point or another, you know. Whereas with a deity, a lot of the time it's like, oh, you didn't donate money to the church today. Okay, snap fingers, you lost all your powers.
Yeah, because
that's less fun in my opinion.
Yeah, like in 3rd edition, there was all those rules about like ex-paladin.
Yeah.
Like when you lost your paladin abilities, like
you had to like atone to get them back.
That's and so on. I don't know.
It has its place, but it's less interesting to me.
Like, yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun to lose your abilities. If part of the adventure is like going and atoning for something, that's fine. Like, you know, that's what your character wants to do or whatever. But like, I feel like removing powers from a player like that, that's a little rough.
Yeah, and I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that I personally don't think a paladin should ever lose their powers by mistake. Like a player should never accidentally lose their paladin's powers.
Right. It should be like...
It should always be like they're making a conscious decision. If the player's playing a paladin and the DM doesn't think that they are following their oath or whatever, mention it to them.
Yeah, make it known.
Warn them.
Yeah, make it known in some way. Like even if it is just like a beam of light comes up and is like, hey, if you do this thing you're about to do, I'm cutting you off.
Yeah.
You know, and then so like maybe they're making a moral decision based on like their own thoughts, you know, rather than their God's thoughts. So it's like, well, I want to save this person, but he's an evil person.
Yeah.
So my God doesn't want me to, but I want to. So so you make that decision and okay, then he switches your powers off, but you got to make that decision.
Yeah. If it is that like the player chooses, I'm going to do this, even though it's going to lose me my powers. Awesome. I love it. I love that. That's great. Go for it. But if it is that they made a mistake, even if they are trying, like if you mention to them, hey, you know, if you don't change this up, you're probably going to lose their powers. If they are even like trying to not lose their powers, if they're trying but doing a bad job of it, I would still let them keep their powers, because if it is that the player just isn't good enough at the game to not lose their powers,
or doesn't have their same understanding of that deity that you might.
There you go.
Like you might have read an extra book about this specific deity that player hasn't, so you don't know that, like, so they don't have that full understanding of what exactly that deity might want or something.
Yeah, I just think that if the player did not purposely make their character lose their powers, it's not going to be fun to lose their powers.
Yeah.
And if you're making fighters lose their powers too because they didn't go training, or you make the wizard lose their powers because they didn't study their spell book that day or whatever, then okay, fine. If you're being across the board, go for it. But I don't think that there's anything so incredibly powerful about a paladin that it is fair to hold them to such a high role-playing standard.
Right, yeah.
You know.
Paladin is a nice, powerful class, but like... Yeah.
I mean, heck, though, if you're gonna enforce every class losing their powers, I could be down for that.
That could be interesting.
If that's the point of the campaign.
Right, yeah.
That's actually sounds kind of cool.
It's neat.
This is a bit of a tangent, and I was actually thinking of going into this on a different episode, but I'll mention it now. In the Adventure Zone.
Okay.
The Adventure Zone for the last, 6 months or so has been doing this. It's not the original story they started with. It's a different story, different game, whatever. One of the characters, the game system they're using is called Monster of the Week, which is sort of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer type stuff.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
One of the characters the class he chose is basically like the chosen one. Mm-hmm. And it's like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He is really strong, really durable. He has some sort of a prophetic goal to his character. And he has a whole bunch of abilities that make him just better than normal people in every regard, with the intention of eventually fulfilling whatever goal he's supposed to fulfill.
Yeah.
Well, they went through a couple story arcs, and then there was a point where the character, he would periodically get these visions from this being that I think is on another planet. I'm not sure. Some sort of being would send him these visions, train him to be the chosen one. And there was a point at the end of one of the story arcs where she revealed that, like, my planet's about to get destroyed. I can't give you any visions anymore. You are on your own now. And then, like, he lost sight of her, and he doesn't have his powers anymore. He is no longer a chosen one. The player, I guess, had an idea for something to change up his character. He changed out his class. Instead of being the chosen one, he is now basically the everyman. There's another class that came out in a supplement that is like, there is nothing remarkable about you whatsoever. And all of his abilities come from the fact that he is so unimposing and boring that, like, it's easy for him to convince people to do what he wants them to do, because it's like, he is so inconspicuous. Like, why wouldn't I believe this guy? There is nothing special about him whatsoever. And so his entire story arc now has been, I was the chosen one my entire life, and now I'm just a normal dude. I can be killed just like anybody else can. Now what do I do?
Yeah. Now what?
Anyway, as a if the DM had enforced that on the player, I think that would have been real bad. But it was the player's choice, at least my understanding. And I think that's so cool.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Such a cool change. So, I guess to summarize my thoughts on this question, if the player wants to do it, start with the assumption it can work. Let's find the most interesting way for us to make it work.
Yeah.
Whether that is, if it is easiest for you to just have the patron and the deity be the same person, or in the same hierarchy, do that. If you think it would be interesting for the two to be at odds, work it into the story and have it be an awesome moment later on where it all comes to a head and the player either has to choose, or I don't know, maybe that's the climax of the campaign or something.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, because I just don't see it being fun for most of the group.
Yeah,
to restrict, like, what the player wants to do with their character. Yeah.
So. Generally speaking, I think you should, whatever the player wants to do, find a way to make it work as best as possible. Yeah. And, you know, that's just, it's so much more fun in my experience than just saying no.
Yeah, I feel like if it works within the rules, find a way for it to work within your campaign.
Yeah.
You know. Our next question comes from Adam B. on Discord, and they ask, we recently had a character death in our campaign. Although that player has made a new character, another player is upset by the death and is now insisting that the party should go on a quest to resurrect the fallen PC, even if it derails the campaign. What should I do?
So this also kind of goes along, it is also on the spectrum of, like, letting your players do what they want to do, but I think there's a very different take on it.
Yeah. Because this is, like, very specifically derailing an adventure or campaign.
There's a lot of ways to tackle this question. If a player wants to do something that is going to derail a campaign, I would say, for first thing, think about whether you could let that happen while keeping the derailing to a minimum.
Right, yeah.
If a player wants to go on a side quest, my initial response is always like, well, I mean, do it.
Yeah.
If a player wants to explore your world, whatever form exploring your world takes, do it. You know, that is content. The player is giving you content for the game, so you should do it. That being said, if the players are in the middle of something, that can be hard to do. Maybe find a way to rework what it is they want to give them the spirit of what they want, but in a way that fits the campaign a little bit better. Now, as for the actual circumstances here, the one character 1 died. Character 2, player 2 is upset.
Right.
That player 1's character died.
Yeah.
Now, what I told, this was in Discord. I told Adam this in the Discord. I think what's happening here is that player 2, the one that it wasn't playing the character that died, but still in the party, player 2 is grieving. Everybody grieves in different ways, whether that's in a game, whether that's in real life, whatever. Everybody grieves in their own ways, and nobody's way of grieving is right or wrong. The player that played that character probably grieved in their own way, but whatever the reason, they got past it, they made a new character, they're going on with the game.
Yeah.
Player 2 probably had some sort of a connection to character 1. I'm doing a real bad job with all these descriptors
right,
here.
Yeah.
So the second player probably had an emotional attachment to this other character, and to have them die and not get satisfactorily resolved, you know, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, all of us have been in games where either games or groups of friends or whatever, where somebody leaves, somebody is no longer part of the group, and it really sucks. You think back to all of like the good times that you had together and so on. And that's tough. Eventually, I imagine player 2 will get through this, but if they feel that more needs to be done in game, I think that you should try to find a way to make this work. Just try not to think of it as player 2 is trying to derail the campaign.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And more that player 2 didn't get adequate closure, and they feel that it would enrich the game, it would enrich the world, it would enrich the party if there was something that brought the character back. Now, I'm not saying that character should be a part of the party anymore. Maybe, well, there's actually a few different ways to do this. Either have the fallen character come back to life and they decide to stop adventuring. Maybe they are technically part of the party, but they've got their own stuff that they take care of. They stay back at the base or whatever.
Sure.
Also, you can't force a character to come back from the dead. When you do, that is generally when they come back as a zombie. Or like whatever. When you cast Raise Dead or Resurrection or whatever, the soul has to be willing to return. And if you as the DM don't want this character to come back, and if you think that it's going to derail the campaign or whatever, you can have it just be that the soul doesn't want to return.
Right.
And maybe if you don't want to go on a side quest only to potentially disappoint the player 2, you can have it be that like the party cleric or whatever casts Speak with Dead.
Yeah.
And they find out, he doesn't want to come back. He is happy with, he died heroic. Maybe, I don't know if he died heroically or not. I don't think it says in the question, but maybe they didn't die heroically, but they're okay with their fate, and they want everybody to just go on without them. It can even be a worthwhile moment of closure if player 2 spends all this time thinking, okay, I want this character to be brought back from the dead because this character was our friend, and they deserve another chance at life.
Right.
And then they find out, oh no, actually they're okay. They're satisfied. They appreciate that you wanted to bring them back, but hey, you've got that bad guy to go kill. Go kill that bad guy.
Yeah. I feel like being a player, you have this sort of balance between going along with the adventure, because there's a DM and they have an adventure in mind for you and stuff like that. And then going along with that, or doing what you think your character would do in this situation, which is not always going to go along with what the DM wants. So like if you're in a world where there is resurrection and your friend dies, you're going to go find a way to resurrect your friend.
Yeah.
Like that's just like if your friend was killed tragically and out there are scrolls of Raised Dead out there. I'm going to go look for one of them scrolls. Like, why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I stop everything I'm doing unless there's some immediate peril that's going to like, unless I do this other thing, a meteor's going to hit and destroy the entire world. It's like, well, in that case, my friend's dead anyway. So, but like, so I'm going to take care of that first, obviously.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, I'm going to go find me a cleric high enough level to do true resurrection, and just we'll undo that tragic moment. So it's tough to rationalize, as the character, like, why wouldn't I sidetrack everything and try to bring my friend back?
Yeah.
Versus like, no, I'm a player in a group of other, like in a real life group of friends who want to play this game.
Sure.
Let's just keep it going. Let's just follow along and see where this leads. And we'll just kind of write that off as like, okay, that was tragically sad, but he died a hero's death or whatever. That's another story for the funeral pyre, maybe.
Sure.
So like it's a tough balance, and I've gone both ways before, where I'm just like, let's just keep moving, let's just keep going. Like I don't want everybody to get too sidetracked on this sort of thing. So like I try to like push along towards where the DM wants us to go, versus like, no, I wouldn't do that. Yeah. Like orcs are invading. No, I'm gonna talk to them. I'm gonna talk to them. Like. There's no option for me to talk to him? Really? I have a really high charisma. You sure about that?
One thing to sort of prevent this from happening in the first place, maybe have your characters, when they're sitting at the bonfire one time, talk about what they want to do if they die.
Sure.
Say, I don't want to be brought back. I want to, however I die, I want to just let my body rest and you know.
See, that's always the moment in like the show or the movie or something like that where like someone's gonna die now. It's like,
oh man, after this job is over, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna marry my girlfriend.
It's like one more day away from retirement.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah, this is my last day at work. You know. Yeah.
So you could have the characters say what they want to, have a will of some sort.
Right. Yeah.
You could, and then you can also, let's say that's already passed, but you want, maybe, I don't know how to word this. There's an example that I have of something that happened in a game that I was in. I was playing as my character Ichi, and then our good friend Chris.
Dang.
So I've got all the sound effects in this section.
Yeah.
Chris's character Koshi was also a katana wielder, but Ichi was a barbarian. Koshi was like a fighter rogue. He died. Like there was a point where actually Ichi's actions in particular led to Koshi getting killed. And there was a point where I think I decided that Ichi wanted to take Koshi to his homeland to be buried or resurrected. I think to be buried, I think is what it was. And Chris was DMing at the time, and he said, he just sort of gave me a very brief narration. He said like, okay, so you go on this journey, you bring Koshi's remains, and then one day you wake up and his body's gone. And you don't know what happened to him. And then like I did some investigation, and then like one night Ichi was like fighting some bandits or something, and then Koshi shows up, kills all the bandits, and then Ichi's like, what happened to you? And he's like, I wasn't ready to be dead. I've got my own stuff I've got to do. And then he went off and did his own stuff. Huh. So like that was a little bit of a weird situation because it was a character, but it was also at the time he was the DM. Mm-hmm. So he had a bit more freedom in what happens. But in that case, like he decided, yes, you want closure that is not just letting this character remain dead. So I'm having this character come back from the dead, but they have their own thing. They're going to go off and do their own thing. You can rest in the knowledge that they are out there.
Yeah. The only way I see this being a problem is like if it's because player 2 wants player 1 to be playing character 1.
Yeah.
And not just like, oh, story-wise, my character wants this character to be alive again, and it's more just like, no, I liked you better as this character. Play this character. That
your heals were so much better as that
right,
cleric.
Yeah, exactly. It's like no, you were our only healer, and now you're rolling a rogue. Stop.
Yeah, I guess in that case, that's a bit of a different situation, but I don't know if if they want character A to be brought back from the dead, I say, find a way to make it not impact the campaign too much. Let it happen, and then find a way to have that character be an NPC or something.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So I think that'll do it for our regular questions today. So I guess let's move on to our social media discussion questions. Mm-hmm. So last week's social media discussion question was, what is your favorite third-party gaming supplement of any system? So just any sort of gaming supplement that was not made by the company that made the game, but made by some third party.
Yeah. And I had said there was the Mongoose books. There was the Quintessential Ranger, which I think I think I have a copy that one of you guys got for me for my birthday.
Probably because you liked Rangers.
Yeah. So like I had one of those, and that that was sentimental as well as I liked the content in it. Mm-hmm. And then there was like the materials and foci one that Steve had that was like different ways to go about using material components and spells.
Sure.
Spells.
Yeah, and I think I said mine was probably in 3rd edition. There was a book called Beyond Monks, Way of the Fist or something. Yeah. That was just because I really like monks. I've always liked monks. Mm-hmm. And it was all like monk prestige classes and then like monk feats, monk magic items and such. It was really, really cool. Yeah. I really liked that. So over on Facebook, Scott says, Creature Codex by Kobold Press. I highly recommend this book for your current or next campaign. And I think that's, I'm actually not sure which one that is. Yeah. It's not, for a moment I thought it was a Tome of Beasts, but no, Tome of Beasts is, because Tome of Beasts is a bunch of is like a monster manual. Yeah. Creature Codex, I don't recall which one that is.
Yeah,
and I'm embarrassed.
I'm not sure.
I'll try to put links to all these in the show notes, though, so people can see them.
There's one called like a Critter Compendium or something like that, and I want to say that it was basically like taking monsters from earlier editions that weren't translated into 5th edition officially.
Oh, that's cool.
And like basically moving them forward.
Sure. So yeah, Creature Codex by Kobold Press was Scott's. Andrew says, mine would be the Tal'Dorei Campaign Guide by Matthew Mercer and James Heck. Hake. I used it as a basis for creating my Pantheon and using the village, town, city descriptions. I believe when I was playing as my character, The Shoulder, last year with my friends from work, I think that's the setting that we were in. We didn't play a ton. We only played a few sessions, but I believe it was in Tal'Dorei. The DM's Council says Legends and Layers is pretty good. Dave says Arms and Equipment 3.5e.
Oh, yeah, the Arms and Equipment Guide?
Yes, although technically speaking, it was 3e. It was right before 3.5.
Yeah?
So it is.
But the Arms and Equipment Guide was...
Arms and Equipment Guide is what Dave said, yeah.
Nice.
Over on Reddit, Vincent Takeda says Grimtooth's Traps.
Ooh,
so I'm not
book on traps. Okay.
Yeah, book on traps. Probably not a bad investment.
No.
I could use some more stuff on traps. Javokler says, for 5e, I love basically everything from Kobold Press. Specifically, I'm really into the Midgard setting. It is nice to play in a world that is new to everyone at the table. So that is, I've heard a few episodes of D&D Character Lab. They made characters in that. I think there was even a Crit Academy episode about it. It is a campaign setting that is like Norse themed.
Sure.
And so it's got like, I don't know if it's classes, but it's got like races, it's got spells, it's got magic items, all sorts of stuff that are Norse themed. So that's pretty cool. Over on Discord, Noah Wizard says Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1 from Crit Academy. That gets a thumbs up from me because I helped write it.
Right.
That's pretty good. That's Crit Academy's first book. And I mean, it is a good book. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Like, I don't think he was just saying it because he knew that I had a part in making it, but it is a good book. It's full of tons of great ideas, and any player or DM can just flip it open to a page and see cool ideas for what to do in the game. It's a really good book, and I hope that they will come out with more of those in the future, whether I help write them or not.
Right. Yeah.
I would love for there to be more books exactly like that.
Cool.
Jason the Human says, DM options monster talents is a really interesting supplement to me. Options to add variety to overused monsters is invaluable. I've never actually gotten to the point of using third-party supplements, being a newer DM, but I can see this one easily fitting into an adventure. And I think that's really cool. Ways to make existing monsters more noteworthy.
Sure.
Is really cool. Adam B says, I love this particular supplement, and they linked Lingering Injuries by Damage Type.
Okay.
Which I think is really cool. So depending on what type of damage you're using, it's got rules on how to make lingering injuries. I'm in favor of lingering injuries in general. As long as it doesn't involve called shots, I do think the game could benefit from some form of lingering injuries that isn't just fatigue.
Right,
you know? So maybe I'll check that one out. Noah Wizard said also Microbes of Malice, which is it's made by the guys from D&D Character Lab.
Oh, right, yeah.
And he said he likes that one. He also mentioned that in the Unearthed Tips and Tricks book, he loved the character idea of the medic or healer who has gone crazy, and this supplement made him want to play a character who did all sorts of blood-based magic. That is Microbes of Malice.
Sure.
So he's sort of combining ideas from the two books.
Nice.
The Beverage Tea says, this is my take on third-party material. I love to read it to see how other fans and creators enjoy D&D, but I am hesitant to allow it in my games. I know there is tons of quality content out there, and I admittedly consume it, but for games that I run, I like the rule of core books and one supplement, and that supplement is usually a Wizards of the Coast product. But I am also a rules lawyer. That being said, I acknowledge my shortcomings and wish that I was more flexible in running my games and allowing for variances.
Yeah. I sort of have a similar way of thinking when it comes to like third party stuff, like homebrewing and third party. Like to a certain extent, I always feel like it is more of like a power creep than the official stuff is. Like the official stuff always ends up having a power creep to it. Yeah. But you're just going to exacerbate that with third party stuff because of course everybody wants to make this cool thing. You know, like I have a cool idea for a character. This would be really awesome. And you write it out and like, yeah, that is really awesome. It's awesome in part that it might be a little overpowered.
Sure. And I wholeheartedly agree, both with you and with the beverage tea. In a game, if I'm planning on running a long-term game, I'm going to say core books only, maybe one additional supplement.
Sure.
If it is going to be an additional supplement, it's going to be a Wizards of the Coast book that I'm already familiar with.
Right. Because
you can't read every thing on the DM's Guild to find out if it's balanced or not.
Right.
You shouldn't have to. But whatever the case, sometimes you let one thing in and then it ruins the game. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't blame anybody who just says core stuff only or whatever. If I'm running a one-shot, I think with my Roll20 games, the rule has been anything that has been published. So like if it's on DM's Guild, awesome, but nothing from the D&D wiki. Sure. Because that doesn't even pretend to have any sort of like peer review.
Right. Yeah.
Mary Sue says, I'm the polar opposite. By and large, I like to run wide open and let the Hulkmania run wild. I frequently underestimated the pure audacity of my players under those terms. In my younger days, my philosophy was let them pick whatever they like. If it's so powerful that it's boring or so insane that it's a living nightmare to play, they'll learn from that and create something more interesting and less crazy. Never quite seem to get to point B, though. So, I can, there's definitely valid viewpoints on both sides. For people that are less confident in their DM skills, I think it's a much better solution just to shut everything off until you're familiar with it and then add in little bits as you go.
Yeah.
And also I just want to mention that Noah Wizard did link the Microbes of Malice page on DM's Guild, and the picture on the front of it is adorable.
It's really cute.
It is a tiny little bacterium with a cloak, a dagger, and a bag of coins.
Yeah.
Or a bag of, maybe that's caltrops. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it's basically like
it's adorable.
It's a tiny little one-celled like organism wearing a like a rogue's outfit.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
It's pretty good. And then we didn't get any responses on Twitter, so nobody on there. But yeah, I thought that was a good question to get out there.
Yeah.
So that brings us to our social media discussion question for this week, and that is: have you ever encountered a cursed item in game?
I can't remember any specific cursed item. I keep confusing, because I know I've done this before. I was confusing. There is a belt of gender swapping that is cursed in a Baldur's Gate game, where when you put it on, you can't take it off unless you get a remove curse, spell cast on you. And I keep confusing that with there is an archway or something in the Tomb of
Horrors.
Tomb of Horrors. I'm thinking of Tomb of Annihilation.
Yeah, I mean
Right, yeah.
Easy mistake.
Right, exactly. So yeah, in the Tomb of Horrors, there's like an archway or something that when you pass through it, it changes your gender like permanently, or until you pass back through or something.
Something. It's weird. It's either that until you pass back through it, or it's until you walk through it a second time and then come back.
Right. I think it's one way, but you can get back around to the other side.
I think so.
Like that. Yeah. But I always confuse those two. But in any case, like that's the one cursed item I can remember is playing Baldur's Gate. You put on this belt and it's like, crap, I can't take it off. I can't. Well, I guess. All right, this is fine.
Sure.
Doesn't change my stats. Whatever.
Sure. And I don't think we are implying that being of a different gender is a curse.
Right.
However, having it forced upon you is a curse.
Well, sure. Right.
And not being able to remove it.
Yeah. Well,
is a curse.
Because in my mind, a cursed item isn't necessarily something that does something bad. It's something that, you don't have control over.
Sure.
So, a belt, it's a magic belt. It could be beneficial, but if you can't take it off, that kind of sucks. What if I want a different belt?
There was in one of the gold box D&D computer games, I want to say it was Curse of the Azure Bonds, there was a pair of magic bracers of armor you could get that were cursed, and if I recall, it was just that they just weren't very good, and you just couldn't take them off. So you couldn't put on better bracers or actual armor because you had these bracers of armor on that were just like the worst possible bracers of armor you could get.
Right, yeah.
I don't know. Anyway.
It's they're better than nothing, and then suddenly they're like, well, they're actually worse than nothing, because nothing could change
something
that
on,
to something else.
When I was playing as Ichi, he got an item that is technically has a curse. However, the curse was not one that was a bad thing. Like in the Dungeon Master's Guide, they have examples of cursed items, one of which is just a sword that makes you like forces you to attack with it. That's only a bad thing if you don't want to attack. Ichi got it was a necklace that like it made him immune to a whole bunch of like undead related stuff. But anytime he entered a bar, he had like a certain amount of money he had to spend at that bar. So like he had to buy drinks for everyone and, drink a ton himself. And hey, I just worked it into the character. So he was the life of the party. Every time we would go to the bar in our hometown, he would buy out the bar, and it eventually got renamed as Ichi's Place because
he just spent so much money there.
It was his It was his fault that there was a second story added on top of it. So yeah, that's the closest I've come to personally encountering a cursed item.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing if anybody else has any experiences out there. And that'll do it for our questions. So let's sit back, let's relax, let's take a deep breath. And let's remember maybe those who have come before us possibly having dealt with curses in the past as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre story was submitted by Carlos on Discord. And Carlos says, we finished our run through of Chapel on the Cliffs last night. Ooh. I was the DM, and I got my first ever player death.
Oh.
Small spoilers of the adventure to follow.
Okay.
After running around the village where the dead rise every night and attack on sight, the players had the idea to speak to a ghost out in the bay. They find a barrel, cut a hole into it, and the halfling Lacey climbed in and set sail to wait for nightfall. Well, there are dead in the bay too, and they take umbrage to Lacey hanging out there.
Oh no.
The rest of the party watch helplessly from the lighthouse as Lacey gets clawed to death and dragged underwater.
Oh no. That's really sad.
Yeah. So I guess let's raise a glass in memory of Lacey, who should have gotten a copy of the adventure herself by emailing us at InterPartyConflict@gmail.com with Chapel on the Cliffs in the subject line.
Oh yeah.
Clink. Well, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, on Reddit at r/interpartyconflict, on our Interparty Discord, or on Twitter at InPartyConflict for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we play video games.
Yes. Check out my side project, the Arcade Memories Podcast. If you'd like to submit your own childhood memories of going to the arcade, record them or write them to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games, courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time...
Gabe, this podcast is cursed. You can't turn it off.
Oh, is that a bad thing or a good thing?
I don't know. We're stuck here.
Oh.
Is the music still going?
I think so. Well, I'm just going to check my phone for a little bit, This
is really awkward.
This is...
We gotta get this curse removed.
All right. Here, I got an app for that.